The Veltari exploration ship Harmony's Edge moved slowly through the purple clouds of the Kepler Nebula. Captain Telnis stood on the bridge, watching the swirling gases dance across the main screen. His blue skin showed the calm patterns that meant he was relaxed. This was supposed to be a simple mission. Look for old artifacts, take some readings, and go home. "Captain," called Science Officer Mordek from his station. "I'm getting some strange readings from Sector 7. Telnis walked over to look at the display. His 4 eyes focused on the data streaming across the screen. What kind of strange? Metal signatures, very old, and very big. Mordek's tentacles moved quickly over his controls. Whatever it is, it's massive, much bigger than our ship. "Could be debris from an old battle," said Commander Zephyra. She was younger than most of the crew, but her tactical skills had earned her the position. "The nebula is a good place to hide wreckage." "No." Mordek shook his head. "The metal is too organized, too structured. This looks like a ship, Captain. A really old one." Telnis felt his skin shift to yellow, the color of curiosity. "How old are we talking?" "The scanner says at least 100,000 years. Maybe more." The bridge went quiet. 100,000 years was longer than most civilizations had existed. The current Galactic Federation was only 50,000 years old. Whatever they had found came from before the Great Wars, before the peace treaties, before most species had even learned to travel between stars. "Set course for the object," Telnis ordered. "And wake up the archaeology team. They're going to want to see this." The Harmony's Edge changed direction and headed deeper into the nebula. As they got closer, the object began to show up on their visual scanners. What they saw made everyone on the bridge stop talking. It was indeed a ship, but unlike any ship they had ever seen, it was huge, easily 3 times longer than their exploration vessel. The hull was dark and covered in strange markings. The design was completely foreign to anything in their databases. "By the eternal stars," whispered Dr. Nira, the head of the archaeology team. She had just arrived on the bridge and was staring at the screen. "Look at those hull patterns. I've never seen anything like them." The ship was stuck inside a large asteroid, as if it had crashed there long ago. But even after all this time, it looked solid and strong. The metal had not rusted or broken apart like most ancient wrecks. "Are you getting any power readings?" asked Zephyra. Mordek checked his instruments. "Very faint ones. Something inside is still working. Not much, but something." "Life signs?" Telnis asked. "Scanning now." Mordek worked quietly for several minutes. His skin went from blue to green to yellow as he worked. "Captain, you're not going to believe this." "What is it?" "There's a life sign, just one. Deep inside the ship, very faint, but it's there." Dr. Nira moved closer to the screen. "After 100,000 years? That's impossible." "The readings." "Don't lie," Mordek said. "Someone or something is still alive in there." Telnis made a decision. "Take us closer. I want a full scan of that ship. Every detail." As the Harmony's Edge moved nearer to the ancient vessel, more details became clear. The ship had been in many battles. There were old weapon marks on the hull, patches where repairs had been made, and sections that looked like they had been rebuilt multiple times. "This ship has seen a lot of fighting," Zephyra observed. "Look at all those battle scars." "And look at the weapons," added Mordek. "I'm detecting weapon systems I don't recognize. They're built into the hull itself." Dr. Nira was studying the markings on the ship's side. "These symbols, they're not in any database, but wait." She pointed to a section near what looked like the front of the ship. "There! Can you enhance that area?" The image on the screen grew larger. Near the front of the ship they could see clear markings, letters and numbers in a script none of them recognized. "UES Eternal Vigil," Dr. Nira read slowly. "That must be the ship's name." Below those markings, in slightly different letters, was another word. "Human," Mordek said, sounding confused. "It says human, but I don't have any record of that species in our databases." "Neither do I," said Dr. Nira, "and I know every species that's ever been part of the Federation." Talnus felt his skin shift to orange, the color of concern. Ship this old with technology they didn't recognize from a species they had never heard of, and someone was still alive inside. "Captain," called Engineer Kale from his station, "I'm detecting some kind of automated response from the ship. It's scanning us." "Weapons?" asked Zephyra, her hand moving toward the defense controls. "No, just scanning, like it's trying to figure out who we are." Suddenly, lights began to appear on the ancient ship, faint at first, then growing brighter. Sections of the hull that had looked dark and dead began to glow with soft blue light. "It's waking up," whispered Dr. Nira. A new sound filled the bridge, a communication signal coming from the ancient ship, but it wasn't like any signal they knew. The pattern was complex and musical, almost like a song. "Can you translate it?" Talnus asked. "Working on it," Mordek replied. "The computer is trying to find patterns. This might take a while." As they watched, more lights came on throughout the ancient ship. It was as if their presence had triggered some kind of automatic system. "Captain," Kyle said, "I'm getting readings that suggest the ship is starting up some of its systems. Power levels are increasing." "Is it dangerous?" "I don't think so. It seems to be running diagnostic checks, like it's making sure everything still works after sleeping for so long." The communication signal continued. After several minutes, Mordek looked up from his station. "I've got a partial translation. It's asking who we are and if we need assistance." "Assistance?" Zephyra sounded surprised. "After 100,000 years, it's offering to help us?" "That's what it says. It's also asking about something called Earth Command and whether the war is over." Dr. Nira frowned. "What war? There haven't been any major wars for thousands of years." "Maybe it's referring to the ancient conflicts," suggested Talnus. "Before the Federation was formed." The communication signal changed, becoming more urgent. "Now, it's asking about human colonies and if any survived," Mordek translated. "It wants to know the current date." "Send our standard first contact protocol," Talnus ordered. "Let them know we're peaceful explorers from the Galactic Federation. Give them the current date and tell them we'd like to help." Mordek sent the message using the same pattern the ancient ship had used. They waited. The response came quickly. This time the translation was easier. "Message understood. You are not human. 100,000 years have passed. All human colonies assumed lost, requesting immediate assistance for last surviving crew member. Medical emergency." The bridge fell silent again. Last surviving crew member. One person had been alive in that ship for 100,000 years. "Dr. Yan," Talnus called to the ship's doctor over the communication system. "Get your team ready. We may need to provide medical assistance to an unknown species." "Captain," Dr. Nira said quietly, "if this is the last member of their species, we're looking at something incredibly important. This could be the greatest archaeological discovery in galactic history." "I understand," Talnus replied. "But first, we save a life. Then we worry about history." The ancient ship, the Eternal Vigil, sent another message. This time it included what looked like docking instructions. A section of the ship's hull began to open, revealing a docking bay. "They want us to come aboard," Mordek said. Zephyra looked concerned. "Captain, we don't know anything about this species or their technology. It could be dangerous." "It could be," Talnus agreed. "But someone in there needs help, and they've been alone for 100,000 years. I think we owe them that much." He turned to address the bridge crew. "Prepare a boarding party. Medical team, security team, and scientific observers. Everyone wears full protective gear. We don't know what the atmosphere is like over there." As the Harmony's edge moved toward the docking bay of the ancient ship, everyone could feel the weight of the moment. They were about to meet the last survivor of a species that had been forgotten by the galaxy. Dr. Nira checked her equipment one more time. "Whatever we find in there," she said to no one in particular, "everything is about to change." The two ships connected with a soft thud. Ancient docking systems, somehow still functioning after all this time, locked the vessels together. Air pressure equalized with a hiss. Atmosphere is breathable, reported Dr. Yan. Similar to what most Federation species can handle. But I still recommend keeping the protective suits on. Agreed, said Tailness. Commander Zephyra, take your team aboard. Find the survivor and get them to safety. Dr. Nira, document everything you can. This may be our only chance to learn about these humans. As the boarding party prepared to enter the ancient ship, none of them could imagine what they were about to discover. The Eternal Vigil held secrets that would shake the foundation of everything they thought they knew about galactic history. The door to the ancient ship opened with a soft whisper of air. Beyond it lay corridors that had been dark for longer than most civilizations had existed. But now, awakened by their presence, the ship was coming back to life, and somewhere deep inside, the last human in the galaxy was waiting. Commander Zephyra stepped through the airlock into the ancient ship. The corridor beyond was larger than she expected. The walls were made of a metal she didn't recognize, and they glowed with a soft blue light that seemed to come from within, the material itself. Stay together, she told her team through their suit communicators. We don't know what we might find in here. Behind her, Dr. Nira was already taking readings with her scanner. The technology here is incredible, she whispered. These walls aren't just metal. They're some kind of smart material. They're responding to our presence. Engineer Kale was examining the ceiling. Look at this design. It's not like anything we build. Everything curves and flows together. And these conduits running along the walls, they're not carrying electricity, it's something else entirely. The team moved deeper into the ship. Every few steps, more lights would come on, as if the ship was waking up section by section. The corridors were wide enough for several people to walk side by side, but there was something about the proportions that felt different. These were built for a specific body type, observed Dr. Yan, the medical officer. Probably bipedal, roughly. Our height, but the doorways are wider than they need to be. Maybe they had broader shoulders than most species. They passed several rooms that looked like living quarters. Through the open doors, they could see furniture that was clearly designed for the comfort of the ship's original crew. The beds were longer than most species would need, and the chairs had a particular shape that suggested the occupants had different anatomy than the current Federation races. How many crew do you think this ship had? Asked Security Officer Tay. Based on the size and the number of quarters we've seen, maybe 1,000 people, Dr. Nira replied. This wasn't just a ship, it was like a flying city. As they moved through the corridors, they began to see signs of the ship's violent history, sections of wall that had been repaired, blast marks that had been patched over, emergency barriers that had been installed to seal off damaged areas. This ship has been through hell, Zephyra observed. Look at all these battle repairs. They came to a large chamber that looked like it might have been a meeting room or command center. The walls were covered with displays that were just beginning to flicker back to life. Strange symbols and diagrams appeared on the screens. Star charts, technical drawings, and what looked like battle plans. Can anyone read these symbols? Asked Kale. Dr. Nira was studying them carefully. Some of them look mathematical, universal concepts, but the writing system is completely unknown. We'll need the translation computer to work on this. One of the screens showed what was clearly a map of the galaxy, but it looked different from current star charts. Many systems that were now inhabited showed as empty. Other systems that were currently empty showed signs of civilization. This map is ancient, Dr. Nira said. Look at how different everything is. The galactic arm has shifted, stars have moved. This really is over 100,000 years old. A new sound echoed through the ship, a low harmonic tone that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The team stopped walking and listened. What was that? Asked Tay, his hand moving to his weapon. I think it was the ship's computer, Kale replied. It's trying to communicate with us. The sound came again, followed by what sounded like speech. The words were in the same unknown language they had heard earlier, but the tone was urgent. Doctor. Jan checked his scanner. The life sign is getting stronger. We're getting closer. They followed the readings through more corridors and down several levels. The deeper they went into the ship, the more advanced the technology appeared to be. The walls here didn't just glow, they seemed to be alive, pulsing gently with patterns of light. The power source for this ship must be incredible, Kyle muttered. To keep running for 100,000 years. Finally, they came to a heavily sealed door. The markings around it suggested this was a medical area. The door was larger and thicker than the others they had seen, and it took several minutes for the ship's systems to recognize their presence and open it. Beyond the door was a medical bay unlike anything they had ever seen. The room was filled with equipment that looked both ancient and impossibly advanced. And in the center of the room was a large cylindrical chamber filled with a clear liquid. Inside the chamber, suspended in the liquid, was the source of the life signs they had been tracking. By all the stars, Dr. Yan breathed. It's actually a person. The figure in the chamber was humanoid, but clearly not from any species in the Federation. The body was tall and lean, with pale skin and hair that looked almost white. The face was peaceful, as if the person was simply sleeping. Is it alive? Asked Zephyra. Dr. Yan was running every scan he could. Yes, definitely alive. But the readings are strange. The body is in some kind of suspended animation. All the life functions are slowed way down. Heartbeat is maybe once every few minutes. Breathing is almost stopped. But the brain shows activity. How is that possible? Asked Dr. Nira. I don't know. This technology is beyond anything we have. The ship's computer made the harmonic sound. Again, and this time they could hear what sounded like words mixed in with the tones. It's trying to tell us something, Kyle said. Maybe instructions on how to wake this person up. Dr. Nira was examining the chamber more closely. Look at these controls. Some of these symbols match what we saw on the displays upstairs. The computer might be able to translate them. She activated her portable translation unit and began feeding it the symbols from the chamber's control panel. After several minutes, words began to appear on the small screen. Warning. Final crew member. Critical life support. Awakening protocol required. Medical assistance needed, Dr. Nira read. It's telling us how to wake him up. Him? Asked Dr. Yan. The pronoun in the translation suggests male. Yes. But is it safe? Zephyra wanted to know. We don't know anything about this species. What if waking him up is dangerous for us? What if it's dangerous for him? Dr. Yan was studying the medical readings more carefully. From what I can tell, he's stable but declining. If we don't do something soon, he might die anyway. The suspension system is very old, it's starting to fail. The ship's computer spoke again, and this time the translation came through more clearly. Final crew member Commander J of Earth Defense Force. 100,000 years in suspension. Life support failing. Awakening required within 6 time units or permanent loss will occur. 6 time units, Dr. Yan said. However long that is, we don't have much time. Zephyra made the decision. Wake him up, but be ready for anything. Dr. Yan began working with the chamber's controls, following the translated instructions from the ship's computer. The liquid in the chamber began to drain away slowly. The body of the sleeping human began to move slightly as life support systems came online. His heart rate is increasing, Dr. Yan reported. Brain activity is rising. He's coming out of it. The process took almost an hour. Gradually, the human's body began to respond. His breathing became more regular. His heart rate increased to something that looked more normal. Color began to return to his pale skin. Finally, his eyes opened. The first thing Commander J saw when he woke up was a group of strange alien faces looking down at him through the clear walls of his suspension chamber. His first instinct was to reach for a weapon, but his body was too weak to move quickly. The aliens were speaking in languages he didn't recognize, but their tone didn't sound threatening. One of them, with blue skin and multiple eyes, was holding some kind of medical scanner. Jay tried to speak, but his throat was dry from the long suspension. The ship's computer, recognizing that he was awake, began speaking to him in human language. Commander J, You have been in suspension for 100,147 standard years. These beings are not hostile. They discovered the ship and provided assistance with the awakening process. Earth Command has not made contact. Status of human colonies unknown. The words hit Jay like a physical blow. Over 100,000 years. Earth Command silent. Colonies unknown. It could only mean one thing. How many? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. The ship's computer understood. Current human population, 1. You are the last, Commander. Jay closed his eyes. In his mind, he could still remember the last message from Earth Command. The enemy fleets were closing in on the final human strongholds. The Eternal Vigil had been ordered to retreat to the outer regions and wait for further orders. Those orders had never come. Dr. Yan was monitoring Jay's vital signs as the human processed this information. He's in shock, he reported to the others. But physically he seems to be recovering well. Through the ship's translation system, Zephyra tried to communicate. We are from the Galactic Federation. We mean you no harm. We want to help. Jay looked at them with eyes that had seen too much. Galactic Federation? He asked through the translator. What happened to the coalition? The aliens looked confused. What coalition? Asked Dr. Nira. The coalition that was trying to destroy us, Jay said quietly. The 12 species that declared war on humanity. The ones who said we were too dangerous to be allowed to live. The aliens exchanged looks. None of them had ever heard of such a war. Commander, Dr. Nira said gently, we have no record of humans in our databases. We didn't know your species existed until we found this ship. Jay stared at. 3 days had passed since Commander Jay woke up from his long sleep. Dr. Yeon had moved him to the medical bay on the Harmony's edge where he could recover in more familiar surroundings. But Jay spent most of his time staring out the window, at his old ship, the Eternal Vigil. Dr. Nira had been talking with him every day, trying to understand what had happened to his people. She had learned to be gentle with her questions. Every answer Jay gave seemed to cause him pain. Tell me about Earth, Dr. Nira said as she sat beside his bed. What was it like? Jay's eyes were distant as he remembered. Blue skies, green forests, oceans so wide you couldn't see the other side. We had cities that reached up into the clouds and farms that stretched to the horizon. He paused. We thought it would last forever. What happened to it? The coalition happened. Jay's voice became hard. 12 species decided that humanity was growing too fast, learning too quickly. We were expanding to new worlds, making new discoveries. Some of the older races got scared. Dr. Nira leaned forward. What did they do? At first, they tried to limit us through laws and treaties. They said we needed to slow down our expansion. They wanted to control which technologies we could develop. When we refused, Jay shrugged. They decided to solve the problem permanently. They started a war? They started a genocide, Jay corrected. There's a difference. In a war, you fight to win territory or resources. In a genocide, you fight to erase an entire people from existence. Dr. Nira felt sick. How long did it last? Over 1,000 centuries. At first we thought we could win. Humans are good at fighting. We're creative, we adapt quickly, and we never give up. But there were so many of them, and only one of us. Jay stood up and walked to the window. They didn't just attack our military. They targeted our civilians, our children, our farms. They poisoned our water, destroyed our cities, and made our worlds unlivable. When we tried to evacuate to new planets, they would track us down and kill everyone they found. But some of you survived for a long time, Dr. Nira said. Yes. We became nomads, living on ships, moving from place to place, never staying anywhere long enough for them to find us. We set up hidden bases in asteroid fields and dead systems. We learned to live with the constant fear of being discovered. Jay touched the window with his palm. The Eternal Vigil was one of our last ships. We built it during the final centuries of the war. It was designed to be self-sufficient, to survive even if everything else was lost. What was your mission? Jay was quiet for a long time. "Revenge," he finally said. "The ship carries a weapon called the Final Argument. It was designed to destroy entire star systems, turn them into black holes. We thought, if we couldn't win, at least we could make them pay for what they did to us." Dr. Nira felt cold. "You were going to destroy their worlds?" "That was the plan," Jay admitted. "An eye for an eye. They killed our children, so we would kill theirs. They poisoned our worlds so we would destroy theirs completely. But you didn't use it." "No. By the time the ship was ready, most of us were already dead. The few humans left were scattered across the galaxy, hiding in the dark. We realized that using the weapon would just prove that the Coalition was right about us. That we really were too dangerous to live." Jay turned away from the window. "So we changed the mission. Instead of revenge, we chose to remember. The Eternal Vigil became a time capsule. A way to make sure that someone, someday, would know that we existed." Dr. Nira was writing notes as fast as she could. "The weapon is still on your ship?" "Yes. Still functional as far as I know. The ship's AI has been maintaining everything for all these years." "And you could still use it if you wanted to?" Jay looked at her sadly. "What would be the point? Everyone who killed my people is already dead. Their children's children's children are dead. The species that destroyed us have probably forgotten we ever existed." Dr. Nira thought about this. "Actually, Jay, I need to tell you something. Some of those species might still be around." Jay's expression changed. "What do you mean?" "The Galactic Federation is made up of many different species. Some of them are very old. It's possible that some of the Coalition species you mentioned are part of our government now." "Show me," Jay said quietly. Dr. Nira activated her tablet and brought up the Federation database. "These are the founding members of the current Federation. They've been the leaders of galactic civilization for the past 50,000 years." Jay looked at the list of species and their descriptions. His face went white. "The Mordanians," he whispered. "The Veltari. The Sector Collective." He looked up at Dr. Nira. "These were Coalition members. They were the ones leading the war against us." Dr. Nira felt her stomach drop. "That's impossible. The Federation has always been peaceful. We've had no major wars for thousands of years." "Because you won," Jay said bitterly. "You killed everyone who might have fought against you. Of course there's been peace. But we have records going back tens of thousands of years. There's no mention of any war with humans." "Of course not. The victors write the history books." Jay stood up abruptly. "I need to see the ship's full database. I need to show you what really happened." Despite Dr. Yan's protests, Jay insisted on returning to the Eternal Vigil. Dr. Nira and several other team members went with him. The ancient ship's corridors seemed different now that they knew its true purpose. The battle scars on the walls told a story of desperate fights and narrow escapes. They made their way to the ship's main computer center. Jay placed his hand on a scanner, and the room came alive with displays and data streams. "Ship's log, Commander. J authorization," he said in his own language. "Display historical database for our guests." The walls filled with images, star charts, and records. Dr. Nira watched in horror as the story unfolded. Maps showing human colonies being systematically destroyed. Communications logs recording desperate calls for help that never came. Battle. Reports describing attacks on civilian populations. "This is from the attack on New Geneva Colony," Jay explained as they watched grainy footage of ships bombing a planet from orbit. 50 million people lived there. The Coalition said it was a military target because we had a research station on the surface. The next image showed the same planet years later. The surface was black and lifeless. "They didn't just defeat us," Jay continued. "They made sure nothing would ever grow there again." Dr. Nira was studying the star charts. "These coordinates. Some of these systems are inhabited now, by Federation species." "Of course they are. Why let good planets go to waste?" "Once all the humans were dead, the Coalition moved in and took everything we had built." More images flashed across the screens. Human cities in flames. Evacuation ships being destroyed as they tried to flee. Children being separated from their parents as colonies were processed. We tried to surrender, Jay said quietly. 3. Different times we sent peace delegations to the coalition. We offered to limit our expansion, to accept their oversight, to give up our weapons. Do you know what happened to those delegations? Dr. Nira shook her head. They were executed on arrival. The coalition said that humans could not be trusted to keep any agreement. The only solution was complete extermination. Engineer Kale was examining the technical specifications of the Eternal Vigil. Jay, this weapon system of yours, how powerful is it exactly? The final argument can destabilize a star's core, cause it to collapse into a black hole. Anything within several light years gets pulled in. Planets, moons, other stars if they're close enough. How many charges does it have? 53. We built it to take out the coalition's most important systems. Their homeworlds, their major colonies, their military bases. Kale did some quick calculations. That's enough to destroy a significant portion of the galaxy. That was the idea. If we couldn't live, then maybe no one should. Dr. Nira was looking at more recent data. Jay, what's this section here? It looks like the ship has been monitoring galactic communications. The AI has been listening to radio signals, watching for any sign of human survivors. For over 100,000 years, it's been hoping to hear from someone, anyone, who might have escaped. And it never found any? You're looking at the results of that search. In all this time, across the entire galaxy, it never detected a single human signal. The room went quiet as everyone absorbed this information. An entire species wiped from existence so completely that they had been forgotten by history. There's something else, Jay said. The ship's AI has been tracking the descendants of the coalition species. It knows where they are now, what they've built, how their civilizations have developed. New displays showed the current state of the galaxy, the peaceful Federation worlds, the trade routes, the diplomatic stations. All of this, Jay gestured, at the displays was built on the graves of my people. Your precious Federation is founded on genocide. Dr. Nira felt sick. But the current generation had nothing to do with it. They probably don't even know it happened. Does that matter? They're living on worlds that were stolen from the dead. They're benefiting from crimes their ancestors committed. What are you going to do? She asked. Jay stared at the displays, showing the current Federation. Billions of people living peaceful lives unaware of the dark history their civilization was built upon. I don't know, he said finally. The weapon is still functional. I could. Dr. Nira spent the next 2 days digging deeper into the Eternal Vigil's archives. What she found made her feel sick to her stomach. The ship's computer had detailed records of every human colony that had been destroyed, every battle that had been fought, every act of cruelty committed by the coalition. But more disturbing were the current files. The ship's AI had been tracking the coalition species for over 100,000 years. It knew exactly which Federation worlds had once been human colonies. Look at this, she said to Captain Telnus as they stood in the ship's data center. New Terra colony. That's what we call Veltari Prime now. 50 million humans lived there before the coalition destroyed it. The captain's skin shifted to a sickly green color. Veltari Prime was his homeworld. And here, Dr. Nira continued, Kepler's Garden Colony, now called Mordanian 7. The coalition used poison gas on the entire planet. It took 3 years for all the humans to die. This is impossible, Captain Telnus said. Our histories go back 50,000 years. There's no mention of any of this. The ship's computer has communications intercepts from right after the war ended, Dr. Nira explained. The coalition leaders agreed to erase all evidence of humanity's existence. They destroyed historical records, changed the names of star systems, even modified archaeological sites to remove traces of human presence. Commander Jay entered the data center. He looked better physically, but his eyes still held the pain of someone who had lost everything. Finding anything interesting? He asked. Too much, Dr. Nira replied. Jay, I need to ask you something. Are you planning to use the weapon? Jay was quiet for a moment. Every night when I try to sleep, I see their faces. My wife, my children, my friends. Everyone I ever cared about is dead because the Coalition was afraid of us. But killing billions of innocent people won't bring them back. No. But it would be justice. Captain Telness stepped forward. Commander Jay, I understand your anger. But the people living on those worlds today had nothing to do with what happened to your species. Didn't they? Jay activated one of the displays. Look at this. Mordanian 7. The world where my people died screaming from poison gas. Do you know what the current inhabitants have built there? The display showed images of a beautiful world covered in gleaming cities. They have a monument, Jay continued. A monument to the brave Mordanian settlers who tamed a hostile wilderness. They celebrate every year on the anniversary of their arrival, the same day my people finished dying. Captain Tailness felt his skin shift to gray, the color of shame. Gets worse, Jay said. The ship's computer has been monitoring your communications. Do you want to know what some of your Federation leaders say when they think no one is listening? New displays showed intercepted messages, communications between government officials discussing the old days and the Great Cleansing, and what needed to be done to ensure galactic stability. They remember, Jay said quietly. The ones in charge, the old families, the ones who run your Federation. They remember what their ancestors did. They just don't talk about it publicly. Dr. Nira was reading the communications with growing horror. These are from current officials, people who are alive right now. And they're proud of it, Jay said. They think they saved the galaxy from the human threat. Engineer Kale had been quietly working at another terminal. Jay, I've been studying your weapon system, this final argument. It's not just about destroying star systems. It's about sending a message. What do you mean? Each weapon is designed to leave a specific signature when it detonates. Anyone with the right equipment would be able to tell that it was an artificial black hole, not a natural one. And the signature would identify it as human technology. Jay nodded. We wanted them to know who destroyed their worlds. We wanted the last thing they saw to be proof that humanity had struck back. But there's more, Kale continued. I found the original targeting list. It's not just military targets. You are planning to destroy every homeworld of every coalition species. That's right, including worlds with billions of civilians who had nothing to do with the war. Jay's expression hardened. They didn't worry about our civilians when they were killing them. Why should I worry about theirs? Because that would make you exactly what they said you were, Dr. Nira said quietly. The argument was interrupted by an alarm from the Harmony's edge. Captain Telness activated his communicator. Captain, this is the bridge, came Mordek's voice. We have multiple Federation ships approaching. A full battle fleet. How long until they arrive? 6 hours, sir. Captain Telness looked at Jay. Commander, you need to know something. The fleet that's coming, it's led by Admiral Thisak of the Mordanian Republic. Jay's face went white. Mordanian? One of the original coalition leaders? Yes, and based on what we've learned about the communications you intercepted, he probably knows exactly what this ship is. Then he's not coming to help, Jay said. He's coming to finish what his ancestors started. Dr. Nira was studying the ship's records. Jay, these archives, they contain proof of everything that happened. Detailed records, communications intercepts, video evidence. This could expose the truth about the genocide. If anyone lives to see it, Jay replied. What do you mean? Think about it. The Federation has spent over 100,000 years covering up the greatest crime in galactic history. Do you really think they're going to let one ancient ship and its records change everything? Captain Talnus realized Jay was right. They'll destroy the ship, claim it was a dangerous derelict. No one will ever know the truth. Exactly. And they'll kill everyone who's seen the records, can't have witnesses. The team stood in silence, absorbing the implications. They had discovered evidence of genocide, and now the descendants of the perpetrators were coming to silence them permanently. We could run, suggested Kale. Take the ship and flee to the outer systems. With what crew? Jay asked. This ship was designed for 1,000 people. I can't operate it alone, and you don't know the systems well enough to help. Then what do we do? Jay walked to the main control console and placed his hand on the scanner. Ship's computer, status of all weapon systems. All weapons operational, Commander. The final argument has 53 charges remaining. Defensive systems at full capacity. Could this ship fight off a Federation battle fleet? Negative, Commander. While our technology is superior, we would be heavily outnumbered. However, the final argument could be deployed before our destruction. Dr. Nira grabbed Jay's arm. You're not seriously considering using that weapon on the fleet. Why not? They're coming here to cover up genocide. They're going to kill everyone who knows the truth. Sounds like exactly the kind of enemy my people built this weapon to fight. But Admiral Thyssic might not know about the cover-up. Maybe he's just curious about an ancient discovery. Jay pulled up the communications intercepts. Here's a message from Admiral Thyssiak to Mordanian Command, sent 3 hours ago. Ancient human vessel confirmed, initiating final protocols. No survivors. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. He knows, Captain Telness said quietly. He knows exactly what this ship is, and he's coming to destroy it. And us, added Dr. Nira. Jay looked at each of them. I'm going to give you a choice. You can take your ship and run. Get as far away from here as possible. I won't stop you. And if we stay? Asked Captain Telness. Then you help me broadcast the truth to the entire galaxy before they can silence us. Let everyone know what the Federation is really built on. And then? Then we see if the current generation has the courage to face the crimes of their ancestors. Dr. Nira was studying the technical specifications of the ship's communication system. It's possible. This ship has transmitters powerful enough to broadcast across multiple sectors simultaneously. We could send the historical records to every major population center in Federation space. But once we do that, there's no going back, Captain Telness warned. The Federation government will consider us enemies of the state. They already do, Jay pointed out. The only question is whether we die with the truth buried forever, or whether we make sure the galaxy knows what really happened. Engineer. Kale was looking at the weapons display. Jay, if we're going to do this, we need to disable the final argument first. What? Why? Because if the Admiral thinks you might actually use it, he'll attack immediately with everything he has. But if he thinks the weapon is broken, he might try to board and capture the ship instead. That would give us time to complete the broadcast. Jay considered this. You want me to make them think I'm harmless? I want you to make them think you're defeated, Kale corrected. There's a difference. And what happens after we finish the broadcast? The Admiral won't just let us go. No, Captain Telness said. But maybe by then enough people will know the truth that he won't dare kill us publicly. Dr. Nira was already preparing the historical files for broadcast. We're about to change galactic civilization forever, or destroy it completely, Jay added. Maybe it deserves to be destroyed, she replied. Maybe something built on genocide doesn't deserve to survive. Jay looked at her with surprise. You're willing to bring down your own government? For the truth? Yes. Captain Telness made his decision. All right. We broadcast everything. Let the galaxy decide what to do. The Federation fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the nebula like a wall of death. Admiral Thysak's flagship, the Righteous Victory, was massive and heavily armed. Behind it came 23 more warships, each one capable of destroying planets. On the bridge of the Harmony's edge, Captain Telness watched the fleet approach on his main screen. They're not here to talk, he said grimly. Good, replied Commander Jay from his position at the Eternal Vigil's communication console. Neither are we. The past hour had been frantic preparation. Dr. Nira and her team had compiled over 1 million files from the ancient ship's database. Battle reports, communications intercepts, video recordings, and historical documents. All proof of the genocide that had been hidden from the galaxy for over 100,000 years. Broadcast array is ready, reported Engineer Kale. We can reach every major system in the Federation simultaneously. How long will the transmission take? Asked Jay. At least 30 minutes for the full archive. Maybe more if they try to jam us. They'll try to stop us long before that, said Captain Tellinus. The moment we start broadcasting, Admiral Thyssick will attack. Jay looked at the approaching fleet. Then we better make those 30 minutes count. A communication signal came from the Federation flagship. Admiral Thyssick's face appeared on the screen, an elderly Mordanian with gray skin and cold, dark eyes. Attention unidentified vessels. You are in violation of Federation space. Prepare to be boarded for inspection, Captain Tellinus responded. Admiral, this is Captain Tellinus of the exploration vessel Harmony's Edge. We've made an archaeological discovery that— I know exactly what you found, Captain, Admiral Thyssick interrupted, and I know who you're harboring. That ancient ship and its occupant represent a threat to galactic security. What threat? It's one person on an old ship. The Admiral's expression didn't change. Captain, you have 60 seconds to evacuate your crew and abandon both vessels. After that, we will open fire. Admiral, we have historical records that prove 60 seconds, Captain. I suggest you use them wisely. The communication ended. Admiral Thyssick turned to his weapons officer. Target both ships. Prepare to fire on my command. Back on the Eternal Vigil, Jay was making final adjustments to the broadcast system. He's not going to let us talk our way out of this. I didn't think he would, Captain Tellinus replied. The question is, are we really going to do this? Dr. Nira looked up from her console. The truth needs to be told. People have a right to know what their government is built on. Even if it destroys the Federation, especially if it destroys the Federation, said Jay. A government founded on genocide doesn't deserve to exist. Commander Zephyra, who had been quiet throughout the preparation, finally spoke. Captain, I need to tell you something. I've been thinking about everything we've learned. And I've made a decision. What decision? I'm not going to let them cover this up. If Admiral Thyssick wants to destroy the evidence, he'll have to go through me first. Captain Tellinus stared at her. Zephyra, that's mutiny. Yes, sir, it is. She turned to address the rest of the crew. Anyone who wants to leave can take the shuttles, but I'm staying to help broadcast the truth. One by one, the crew members made their choice. Engineer Kyle was the first to speak. I'm staying. So am I, said Dr. Nira. And me, added Dr. Yan. In the end, every member of the crew chose to stay. Captain Tellinus felt his skin shift to gold, the color of pride. All right then, he said. Let's tell the galaxy what really happened. Jay activated the broadcast system. Instantly, powerful transmissions began beaming out in all directions, carrying the historical records to every major population center in Federation space. On the flagship, Admiral Thyssick's communications officer looked up in alarm. Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies. The signal is incredibly powerful. What are they transmitting? I'm not sure, sir. It appears to be historical data files. Admiral Thyssick's face went pale. Block the transmission. Jam all their signals. I'm trying, sir, but their transmitters are too powerful. The signal is getting through. Then destroy them. Now. The Federation fleet opened fire. Energy beams and missiles streaked through space, toward the two small ships. But as the weapons approached, the Eternal Vigil came alive. Defense systems that had been dormant for 100,000 years suddenly activated. Energy shields flared to life around both ships. Automated weapons, systems began targeting the incoming missiles and destroying them with precisely aimed shots. What the hell? Admiral Thyssick stared at his tactical display. That ancient ship just stopped our entire first salvo. Sir, their defense systems are far more advanced than anything in our database. I don't care how advanced they are. Concentrate. All fire on that ancient ship. Destroy it. The battle was unlike anything the Federation fleet had ever encountered. The Eternal Vigil moved with impossible grace, its weapons striking with devastating precision. It wasn't trying to destroy the Federation ships. It was disabling them, targeting their weapons and engines while leaving their life support intact. They're not trying to kill us, observed the Admiral's tactical officer. No, Admiral Thysic said grimly. They're trying to keep us alive long enough to hear their propaganda. But it was too late. Across the galaxy, the broadcast was being received. On dozens of worlds, billions of people were seeing the truth for the first time. On Veltari Prime, families gathering for their evening meal watched in horror as images of human children being separated from their parents filled their screens. The narrator's voice, speaking in perfect Veltari, explained how this world had once been called New Terra Colony. On Mordanian 7, the annual celebration of settlement, day was interrupted by footage of the poison gas attacks that had killed the original inhabitants. Citizens stared in shock as they learned that their beautiful cities were built on mass graves. On Earth, now called Sector Prime after the species that had claimed it, archaeologists suddenly understood why they kept finding strange artifacts buried beneath their capital city. The artifacts were the remains of humanity's first city. The reactions were immediate and explosive. Riots broke out on several worlds as people demanded answers from their governments. Emergency sessions were called in the Federation Council. Protesters surrounded government buildings carrying signs that read, "Remember the humans" and "Justice for the lost." In the nebula, the battle continued. The Eternal Vigil was heavily damaged but still fighting. Its shields were failing and several of its weapon systems had been destroyed. How much longer for the broadcast? Jay asked as explosions rocked the ancient ship. 15 more minutes, Dr. Nira reported. We're almost through the archive. I don't think we have 15 minutes, said Captain Telness. His ship had taken heavy damage as well, and the Federation fleet was closing in. Admiral Thasic was growing desperate. All ships ramming speed. We destroy those vessels no matter what it costs us. But as the Federation ships moved in for the final attack, something unexpected happened. Ships began breaking formation. One by one, Federation vessels stopped firing and pulled back. What are you doing? Admiral Thysac demanded over the fleet communication channel. I'm sorry, Admiral, came the reply from Captain Moltar of the cruiser Peacekeeper. My crew and I have been listening to the broadcast. We can't be part of covering this up. This is mutiny. Yes, sir, it is. More ships began withdrawing from the attack. Their crews had families on the worlds that were learning the truth. They couldn't bring themselves to destroy the evidence of their government's greatest crime. Within minutes, Admiral Thysac found himself commanding only 3 ships instead of 24. The rest of his fleet had joined the mutiny. Fine, he said through gritted teeth. I'll finish this myself. The Admiral's flagship and its 2 remaining escorts made a final desperate attack on the Eternal Vigil. But they were too late. The broadcast was complete. Every major world in the Federation had received the full archive of humanity's destruction. The truth was out, and there was no way to put it back. As the last files finished transmitting, Jay made one final broadcast, not of data, but of words. My name is Commander Jay of the Earth Defense Force, he said, his voice carrying across the galaxy. I am the last human alive. My people are gone, but their memory lives on in these records. His voice was calm but filled with sadness. We were not perfect. We made mistakes. But we did not deserve genocide. No species does. You have a choice now. You can let the fear and hatred that destroyed my people destroy you as well. Or you can choose to build something better. You can learn from the past instead of repeating it. My people love to explore, to learn, to create. We dreamed of a galaxy where all species could live together in peace. That dream died with us, but it doesn't have to stay dead. Learn our languages. Read our stories. Listen to our music. Remember that we existed, and remember what happens when fear is allowed to triumph over hope. And maybe someday when you look up at the stars, you'll think of us and choose to be better than those who came before you. The broadcast ended in silence. Admiral Thasac's final attack was stopped not by weapons, but by his own crew. His officers had been listening to Jay's words, and they refused to fire on the last survivor of a genocide. In the days that followed, The galaxy changed.